Landry Locker of the Locker Room, Cody Stoots here with you with another free agent for the Texans to think about. And this one, Landry, is a long thought of target amongst Texans fans. If you've heard his name once, you've heard his name 100 times going back to should they trade for him before last season started to should they sign him as a free agent this offseason. It's Mike Evans. What do you think about Mike Evans heading into free agency?
Well, honestly, you feel better about the receiver position at this point than you anticipated that you would feel about it, especially before camp and everything. You like Nico Collins, you like Tank Dell. You still need wide receiver depth. For me, the Texans, whether they're getting a clear-cut number one, a guy who's in the conversation at number 2 or 3, they've got to improve the depth of the wide receiver position. Now, because of the way that Nico looked and because of the way that Tank looked, I don't think getting a receiver with a prime asset, whether that's heavy cap space or a first-round draft pick, although I could still see a scenario where that makes sense, I don't think it's like really, really urgent. But if you can add Mike Evans and you can get Mike Evans at the right price, which might be possible given what the Texans did last season, then I'm much more open to the possibility than I anticipated I would be, especially once it was clear that, you know, there's something there with Tank Dell and Nico Collins. Don't know how much, but there's something there.
Yeah, you talked about the wide receiver position. A year ago, it was a huge question mark. You had no idea what to expect. And coming into this year, you've got 2 spots locked up that you feel very good about. I mean, Nico Collins had an incredible year. And actually looking through a lot of Mike Evans' stats, Nico Collins was better in some of the stats. You know, he had more yards than Mike Evans this year. He was close in he's ahead of him in receiving yards per game. He was close in yards per reception as well. Evans had more touchdowns. He was tied for the league lead in touchdowns at 13. He had more touchdowns than Nico Collins, but Nico had a fantastic year. And then obviously we saw most of the season with Tank Dell, but a good portion of the season was taken away due to the injury. It's not one of those nasty injuries that should affect Tank Dell a lot. So 2 really good wide receivers, and most teams don't have 1 really good wide receiver. It feels like the Texans have 2 good wide receivers. So adding another one, I mean, you're talking about a really impressive and incredible offense. As far as Evans goes, I mean, he'll be one of the top targets in free agency for people looking for wide receivers. He's Mr. Consistency, at least 1,000 yards in all 10 years that he's been in the National Football League. So the case for Mike Evans on the Texans, why does it make sense, Landry?
Well, the case for is the 2 previously mentioned guys, Tank Dell and Nico Collins, are on their rookie deal, as is the quarterback. So if you're going to splurge for someone, then, you know, this would be the time to do it. Also, as far as culture guys and guys that you're bringing in and mentoring the young guys, I don't think it gets much better than Mike Evans. And on the other side of things, like from his perspective, you've won a Super Bowl. You've established yourself as a Hall of Famer. You've worked in a state where there's no state income tax. And I think he's made like $110, $111 million in his career. You probably want to play for a good team. The Texans are a good team. He's from the area, so you could factor that in. And I just wonder, you know, I'm not sitting here saying that Mike Evans is going to take like some sort of revolutionary hometown discount, but if you can get Mike Evans on like a 2-year deal or something like that, I mean, to me, it would just make a lot of sense. So there's a lot of reasons from both point of views. And it also felt like the writing was on the wall with Tampa Bay. Maybe that changed with the season that they had. I don't think they anticipated having as much success, but it just makes a lot of sense because of how little money you have invested in your offensive skill position guys, as well as from his point of view and perhaps being able to put the Texans over the top.
I mean, can you just imagine Mike Evans, which he's the type of wide receiver that takes the top off the defense without being that speedster guy. Evans gets deep. I mean, we saw it in Houston at NRG Stadium when Tampa was here. He gets deep without being one of the fastest guys on the field. Adding that element to this offense with Nico Collins hitting those routes across the middle, Tank Dell with the dynamic ability that he's showcased. mean, you start talking about a really, really impressive offense. And it's worth noting, last year was the first year Nico Collins was healthy for nearly an entire season of football. Tank obviously got hurt in his first season. You want the model of consistency. You want a guy that's out there basically every single week. That is Mike Evans. The fitting in with those young guys, helping, whatever mentorship you need, having a big-time veteran in the room, whatever he could impart and help with CJ. I mean, he would fit for a variety of reasons. And yes,
great dude.
It's incredible human being. From anybody you've talked to, I got to hang out with him, have dinner with him one time with Lopez. Gerard Johnson was there. That's a familiar name. And Evans was an incredible dude at that dinner. My favorite story was he was there to it was an auction deal through Sports Radio 610. And he was there, and they were talking about Aggie football and the pros and stuff like that. But one of the guys brought his son, and Mike Evans was like, he leaned over to the kid. He goes, "Hey, you play Fortnite?" And the kid was like, yeah, I play Fortnite. Mike Evans was like, "Me too. Are you any good?" And the kid's like rattling off his stats, and Mike's like, "All right, so you're okay." And he's like, "Well, when you get home tonight, if your dad says okay, we'll play Fortnite." And the kid was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah." He goes, "What system do you have?" And Mike Evans goes, "I have all the systems." So good. Really good dude. And yes, he's not going to be cheap, but the money doesn't have to break the bank. You could still do some of the other things that we know the Texans need to do. Now, after we said all those nice things about Mike Evans, Landry, I think the case against Mike Evans is the money and where he is in his career. He has every reason to walk into free agency and ask for $25, $26, $27.5 million per year.
And 4 years.
And 4 years. He is the model of consistency. His average season in the NFL would be the best season for almost every wide receiver out there. And yes, he's going to be 31 years old, and the back end of that contract might not be great. But for teams that want to make a splash and make an impact right now, 25, 26, 27, $27.5 million a year. And you start talking about a lot of cap space dumped into Mike Evans. And oh, by the way, if you pay Mike Evans that with a lot of his stats, and Nico Collins has another year just like that, then you're probably losing Nico Collins because you can't afford to pay Mike Evans's contract twice or something close to Evans's contract twice. So that's a conversation that you need to have and think about long-term as well. If you sign Mike Evans, does it cost you Nico Collins? Does it cost you the ability to go and do some other things with this team, not only this offseason, but maybe in the off seasons ahead?
It's really just going to be about the years for me. If it's 2 years, I don't think it's like too big of a deal no matter what. You can still do everything else. Also, like the needs, like if we're just listing needs, they need wide receivers. Do they need to, like with how day 2 is setting up for the draft, there could be some extreme value there. Hell, even at the end of the first round, there could be extreme value there. And you want to see what Nico Collins and Tank Dell can do. So, For me, the case against is he trying to break bank, and do they feel that they really need a wide receiver that much to pay Mike Evans what he's earned and what he deserves? But he would definitely bring a lot of excitement. I would like to see them overpay, pay market value for a running back, and then look at some of the other middle-ish receivers. But if they decide that Mike Evans works and he decides it works for them, it's hard to argue against. And let's be honest, we're just assuming he's going to fall off. I've been making that assumption for a couple years now, and he's just continued to produce at a very high level.
Yeah, you've brought up the years. If there's a short-term commitment, I'm definitely in on paying a good amount of money for him. I just feel like he's got every reason to ask for 4 years. And I wonder if with the success they had towards the back end of the year, making the playoffs, it seems like he got along with Baker Mayfield well. If they keep Mayfield, does he want to leave Tampa? Is it, do they just go to Mike Evans? Hey, you're our guy. You've been our guy. They pay him, and he just sticks around. But if he goes hunting and he wants the big money and the opportunity to win, he can get the opportunity to win here in Houston. I just don't know if they want to commit the big money. So ultimately, Landry, what's our verdict here on Mike Evans? Sign or decline with Mike Evans?
I'm going to decline if it's over 2 years. I'm going to decline. Now, if he wants to take a 2-year deal, then I will be on board for the sign. But I don't know why he would do that unless he just really wants to play here. So I'm going to have to decline Mike Evans.
I'm going to decline Mike Evans as well. I can't get on board with that level of financial investment in just one player when you've already got some players at that position. You currently don't have a starting defensive tackle, a defensive end opposite Will Anderson, a starting corner opposite Derek Stingley. So there's so many different things that you need to spend some money on. Free agent wide receiver, that's a lot cheaper. Rookie wide receiver, that's where I'm at too. So we both got a decline on Mike Evans. What do the people think? Let us know in the comment section down below. On your way to the comment section in the description, don't forget to check out and follow Landry Locker here on YouTube. Follow me on YouTube as well. The Locker Room is daily. I'm daily, and we're doing this daily, getting you set up for free agency less than 4 weeks away. So many more players and so much more fun to get to, Landry.
Let's get it, man. Let's get it. Fun times, baby. Less than 4 weeks.
We'll talk to you again soon.